What's going on, everyone? Back with another sequel Saturdays. Let me make sure we live everywhere. If you're tuning in, make sure you go ahead and share this on the Twitter, on LinkedIn. I believe we stream it on Twitch now for the first time. So make sure you guys share this on your Twitter, share it on your LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitch, all that good stuff, wherever you tune it in. Today we're going to be going over subqueries. So give me 1 second. Let me just make sure we got this live everywhere. If you tuned in, go ahead and leave a comment where you tuning in from. We got it shared out. We got a new instructor in the building today. Leah, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Leah. So basically, I've been in SQL for about 2+ years. I first got introduced to SQL just through an academic environment, just me completing my master's. But I pretty much use SQL every day. I'm currently a data analyst, and I work for a digital marketing consultant agency. So SQL is just really a part of my everyday work life. So I just wanted to also just share something that's not about SQL. So this Dr. Seuss quote I have at the bottom left corner says, unless someone like you cares a whole lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. So that quote is in reference to climate change, but I definitely think it can apply to everybody here who is actively just trying to get better, whatever reason why you're here, so you care a lot and it's going to get better. So this is typically what they're using. You can definitely go ahead and follow along using SQLite, but I'm not sure if you'll have access to the tables. I can share another link just a little bit later. But without further ado, so let's get into subqueries. So essentially, what is a subquery? A subquery is a query that is nested inside a select, insert, update, or delete statement, a from clause, a where clause, or just a query that's inside another query, essentially a nested query. So why are subqueries useful? Subqueries are very useful, especially like if you're newer at SQL. Sometimes like they may ask you this very complicated question and you want to get it all done within like one big query, but you may just have difficulties just trying to figure out syntax or how that should look. Subqueries are really helpful with aggregating that data to a point where you can like further manipulate it. So subqueries help divide a complicated query into smaller and easily digestible queries that can be broken down into logical steps. So what does a subquery look like? So essentially there's going to be that outer query, parent query, and then you're going to have that subquery, nested query on the inside. So essentially all a subquery is you have an overarching query, and then you have a smaller query inside that overarching query. So these are just some simple examples on like what it could look like and what the syntax would look like. So what denotes a subquery is typically you're going to see, just like much with any aggregated function in SQL, you're going to see open parentheses and a closed parentheses. And then you're also going to usually see like a select or whatever type of statement, and it's going to denote like it's pulling that. So I just want to give you some rundown, just some basics about what you should know about subqueries, okay? So like I said just a little bit earlier, subqueries must be enclosed in parentheses. So just much like your aggregated functions in SQL, your subqueries, they have to be in parentheses. So also something, an order by statement cannot be used in subqueries. However, it can be used in the outer query. So the example below I have there is just essentially me just creating just some arbitrary table and some fields, and showing you how it should sit on the outside of the query instead of in the inside of the query. If you put it on the inside of the query, it's no big deal. It's just going to give you like a little error. So you're not able to use order by in a subquery. However, you can definitely, you can use group by, but just not order by. And so it says between cannot be used with a subquery. However, it can be used within a subquery. So essentially when they say within a subquery, they're just saying using that function between inside that subquery, right? So they're saying you can't say where, let's say date between and then say select whatever. You can't put that subquery there and then you and the and statement and put another subquery there. It doesn't work like that. But still, subqueries are just very powerful tools, but there are just some stipulations and parameters around how you can use it. Alrighty, so now that we have just a brief introduction on just what subqueries are, I think it's a good time to just go ahead and let's just go ahead and get into some practice. So like I said, I use SQL Online Editor. This is Do Factory, and I just used it because it had tables like already in there. So I thought that would just be simpler and easier. So I'm not sure if we can share the link, but I'll just share it right here. Alrighty. And I'll just give you a second or so if anyone wants to click on the link and go ahead and start with me. So for our first question, a lot of times on like real world simulations or just situations, a lot of times, especially with me being in digital marketing, a lot of times a question that's asked of me is to query the database to see who is more likely to buy or who should we target for this advertisement based on some sort of condition. So the first question is, for a targeted mail campaign, your boss would like for you to query the database to find a list of customers who spend above the average and their average spend. So two things are being asked here first. So you want to know who the customer is and what, if they're above average, what is their above average spend? And this is the query that I wrote, and I can go ahead and just rewrite it. I mean, it's not a big deal. And just like a brief overview before we get into the actual query writing, if you decide to
Hold on, everyone. The instructor's having some technical difficulties right now, so just bear with us a moment until they come back on. Thank you for everyone tuning in. Just give us a few more minutes. The instructor will be back shortly. They just had to restart the computer. So just give us a few more minutes and they'll be back on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not sure what was going on there. What's the last thing you heard?
Not too sure. Last thing. You probably just could go back maybe like one step.
Okay. All right. So like the last thing I was talking about was just the SQL online editor from Do Factory. So just to go over like the tables really quickly, there's a customer table, there's an order table, order item table, product table, and a supplier table. And the important thing to kind of note is that this is the customer ID. And like, for example, order down here, that's the customer ID as well. So you want to make sure that when you're joining, if you're joining, you join on customer ID and then order customer ID and not this ID. Because that ID corresponds with the order item ID right here. So this order ID and this ID are the same. And it just kind of trickles down like for the rest of the table. So just FYI, if you do decide to just take a look at that. So the question that was asked was, for a targeted mail campaign, your boss would like for you to query the database to find a list of customers who spend above the average and their average spend. So you can solve this a lot of different ways, but the way in which I'm choosing to solve this is just using a subquery. So It's important also to notice that you're going to need two different tables. So there's going to be a join involved. So you need the total amount, making sure that the average spend is over this total amount. And then you also just need those customer IDs so that y'all can target them. So let's see. Okay, and this is just what I was saying just a little bit earlier. This is where you would join on. Oh, I forgot where. Okay, and so essentially this is just going to show you an output table of those 288 customers who spend over the average, and that could be something you could definitely, give to your boss to kind of answer that question. So similar thing here as well. So how many customers in each country order more than 5 items? List from greatest to least and their country. So this is also just wanting to use a subquery, but wanting to use it like right after the from statement there. So subquerying like this table that I created and I named JJ. And essentially, all I did from this table was get the customer IDs and the quantity in the country. But I only queried the database for where the quantity was greater than 5. So then from there, from that subquery, all I had to do was count the IDs and then just select the country. So I'm just gonna. So your desired output is just a list of those countries and then a count of like how many customers in those countries purchase more than 5 items. And then also another portion was they wanted it in descending order. So we can see that India is a country that has 429 customers that have ordered over 5 items. And then the last one I wanted to just show you guys was a subquery using a join as well. That's one of the more popular ways that I definitely always, me personally, I use subqueries as well. like that a lot. So this one just says for the companies who have the highest 10 unit prices and a phone number listed, get a list of all the products those companies have sold. So essentially, what's key here is this subquery where I already have a list of those top 10 unit prices and their company name. And then also one little condition that was put in there as well is that they have to have a phone number listed. So we want where phone number is not null in a production environment, and maybe something a bit more robust to filter out incorrect phone numbers. But so I already have right in this subquery, I already have a list of those top 10 unit prices, and then I have what company sold them. So from there, I also just interjoined that on the original supplier table and got the joined on the company's name. And then from there, did a couple of more joins, just interjoining the supplier table with the product table. And then that way I was able to get the actual product name. And then also I'm not sure, but if anybody wants access to the presentation, you're more than welcome to. I do have some very just similar questions to what was answered here. Something that you can potentially try on your own and try to use a case statement, or if you're just somebody newer, just trying to figure it out in general. And that was all I had there. Any questions?
So somebody asked about 3 minutes ago, can you explain why you used a subquery there? What was the benefit?
Yes. So there's all of these, you can honestly solve them in different ways. But the kind of what I was just trying to do is implement a subquery in there some way. So it's no right or wrong way to kind of do it. You can use whatever you feel comfortable, as long as the logic is right and you're getting to the correct answer. So there are definitely more efficient ways to do things, but as long as the logic is right, you can do like whatever you want. So essentially, like these examples, you can solve them in probably so many different ways, but I specifically just chose to use subqueries to show you like the different functionality of subqueries and how it can be used.
Okay, and then looks like this is the last question here. Is why would you use a subquery in a select or from statement?
You said, why would you do that?
Yeah, it said why would you use a subquery in a select or from statement?
Yeah, so a lot of times it's used in a from statement because you want to get that table in a specific order or way, or you may have manipulated or aggregated in a certain way, or you need for it to be manipulated or aggregated in a certain way for you to get to your final output. Alrighty.
Okay, that looks like that was all the questions. So thank you again for everyone that tuned in today. If you want to look at the replay will be available. Actually, as soon as we end the live, it should be available. Thank you for everyone that tuned in on LinkedIn, on Twitch for our first time. If you're on Twitch and you want to follow us, you can just go to All About the Data. Just type it all together, not spaced out. And we will see you guys again in 2 weeks for another lesson. If you want to catch the replay for all the other lessons, just check out our playlist on YouTube. Our playlist on YouTube is It's called SQL Saturdays, and you can watch all of them. I believe this is number 14. So we have about 14 sessions that we've done already. I see someone says what other kind of join could have been used. So we actually have a session on joins. I believe that was our previous one. So check out our previous lesson on joins so you can see some other ones that we have there. So with that being said, everyone enjoy your Saturday. Thank you, Leah, again for this awesome presentation today. And we'll see you guys on the next one.
Thank you, Jamar, for having me. Have a good one.